So, to understand that, this person to me is a crucial person. This is Adriaan Metius. He's a professor of mathematics at the University of Leiden in the beginning of the 17th century. And there's no mathematician in the Western world, and well, there's no mathematician in the whole world in the early 17th century who published more books than he did. Or, I say books, I should say, who published more editions. Because if you look at it very closely, he only published 3 books. But they came into a variety of editions, and every edition is a little bit different from the previous one. Add to this that every book you actually find also differs from the other books because they were hand bound, and the binders make mistakes, they leave parts out, they mix quires up, stuff like that. You've got like a very large collection of books which is really hard to make sense of. Now, thankfully, we've got the internet these days, so in the past 5-6 years it became possible to actually compile a complete list of all editions published under the name Adriaan Metius. Well, all editions that survived under the name of Adriaan Metius. A friend of mine did this. I was able to assist her a little bit because she was just interested in the books, and I was also interested in the person Metius. And together we made that list and published it, and we were very happy, and she actually received a lot of compliments of other historians who said, well, I thought about doing that, but I wasn't crazy enough to, she got that comment three times. I wasn't crazy enough to start it, so I'm very thankful that you actually finished it. Here I've got one of those books, which was published by the Elseviers, or at least it says so on the frontispiece. You'll see I've got a picture up there in a few moments, which will be a bit more clearer. But before I go to that frontispiece, this is the original title page, which reads, that was published in 1625 in the town of, here it says, Franeker, so in Friesland, in the north of the Netherlands. And if you look at the book, if you look at how the letters are set and how the diaphragms are framed and stuff like that, it's immediately clear to somebody who knows this this town and the publications that come from the town in this era, that this is actually printed in Franeker. Only a year later, that same book appears with this title page, and that's the one I just showed you, which reads that it was published in Leiden by the Elsevier firm. So this is always counted as for one part as a book published in Leiden, and for one part as a book published in Franeker. What is it? Is it a book that's outsourced to Franeker? No, it was published and actually available on the market as a book from Franeker from 1625. Or is this book a book from 1626 published in? These are, well, perhaps minor problems, but if you want to understand the publication record of one of these professors, they become big problems, and they become very hard to solve, actually. What we also see here, the difference between the two pages is enormous, right? This is like your proper early modern title page. The one, if you ever handled a few early modern books, and you may be able to do that at the end of my talk, they all look something like this. So you've got the title up there, you've got something about the author here, you've got a printing emblem in the middle, and you've got the place and the time when it was printed at the bottom. Whatever you do for the rest of your life, if you can forget everything I said, but you take with you this one thing: don't trust these pages. They are made to play with your mind. They are actually made to give you a false impression. So what are the books we're really interested in? Those are the books that contain new stuff, right? and books that contain new stuff are often considered dangerous, or somebody's not happy with it, the people in power are not happy with it, which will ultimately make these pages even less reliable, because they will change the things. They will print, well, it was printed in Maastricht or in Berlin or whatever. They will make up anything they want. They will find years in the future. It was printed in 1640, while it was already available in 1620. They will do all these kinds of things. So they are really, they're your most important source, like your window to the past, but they're also very unreliable, which is a big problem for the historian, but which is also fun, right? Here I am, Sherlock Holmes. I have to dive into it and understand what's going on, actually. So that same year, 1626, when this book was republished in Leiden by the Elsevier firm, Metius published another book, again with the Elsevier firm. I don't know, can you all read this? This is Dutch, right? So it says Arjen Metius maakt constant geen lineaal. So it's on a ruler. Actually, he nicked bits and pieces of this from Galileo. So he had a Latin version of one of Galileo's books, which he translated into, no, he had an Italian version of one of the books of Galileo, which Metius himself translated into Latin. And then he had one of his students, Petrus Baard, translate that book into Dutch. And this is what we look at here. And at the bottom you can see it was printed in Franeker again in 1626. But it says here, men vindt ze te koop tot Leiden bij Bonaventura en Adriaan Elsevier. So they are for sale in Leiden at Bonaventura and Adriaan Elsevier. I tried to look at as many copies of this book as I could. And I made a lot of photos of that. And I will share a few. Now look at the bottom two lines here. So first this one, then this one, then this one, then this one. What you see happening is those bottom two lines, they differ in distance to the lines above it. You see that, actually? It's really a small difference, but you actually see it jumping up and down a bit, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
What is it? Those two lines initially were not there. Here we have a copy without those two lines. And what we've got there is a dedication by the author, Adriaan Metius, who says here, the author, I give this to my friend Johannes Nijs, curator of my university. So apparently those two lines were later added to that title page. What happened here? And why do I have, like, well, this is unique. There are like, I think about 40 copies survive of this book. And here I've got one of those 40 copies. The book was probably published like somewhere between the 500 and 1,000 copies in 1626. 40 survive, and one of those 40 actually has a signature by the author and a dedication to like this magistrate. And here I've got another one where somebody actually crossed out the dedication by the author because they felt it was ugly or something like that, and they felt like these black things are nicer. But and this book is dedicated to one of his fellow professors. So what's my theory here? Arjen Metius has this book published in Franeker. The entire print run is sold to the Elseviers in Leiden, or the Elseviers actually have it published in Franeker, which is also like that possibility is as big as the other one, right? But he keeps a few copies for himself, which he can hand out to friends and people in who are close to him, as like, well, you also hand out books, right? free copies to people you want something from. Metius does the same. But here we've got a book which is one way or the other outsourced from Leiden. But why? Why do they do it? Because as much as I like Vereeniging, I wrote a dissertation on the practice of mathematics in Vereeniging. As much as I like the little town and the small university, and I come from Friesland, like from the province, right? So I've got like a, I don't know, a nationalistic thing with Vereeniging. As much as I like it, they couldn't print as well as the Elsevier's in Leiden. Those books from Leiden are much prettier, much nicer. So why would this, one of the best printing presses in the world, have books printed in that small town? What could be a reason for them to do that? That's what triggered me into doing more research, into wanting to know why do 17th century companies outsource printing? Why do they do that? So this is actually, I now explained my starting point. That's a bit too much time. No, any ideas at this point in time? Just from the top of your head, you're all in the publishing and editing trade. Why would you want to outsource?
Saving costs. Too much workload, so they pick the lowest priority stuff to others.
Okay, so there's too much workload in Leiden, and the less important works they might print somewhere else.
Yeah, cost saving, I think.
Yeah, so it might be cheaper to actually have a book printed in Vereeniging than a book printed in this very high-tech, well-organized print shop in Leiden.
But maybe they want a range of quality. I mean, maybe they wanted to offer a cheaper version, or maybe the demand is so high they just need to get extra copies very quickly.
Okay, so those are also two possibilities, right? So perhaps they want, well, as you just said, there's no need for me to. Anything else?
Well, what I don't understand is, I mean, they must have printed at one printer. I mean, because they couldn't move those blocks. So it is either printed in Franeker or in Leiden.
Yeah.
And was that something that you could find out? Because then you're for sure if it was printed in Franeker.
Yeah, but I'm sure about that. So this book is printed